congregation please rise? Who gives this woman to be married to this man?
Her mother and I.
You can be seated. Well, here we are, May 26th, finally arrived. Before we get going, I just want to name what's going on here and try and figure out a couple of the reasons why we might have been feeling the emotions that we've been feeling for the last 24, 48 hours, 7 days. I'll start here. The obvious reason is the posture that these moments afford us to take towards God. But if I could, I'd remind us all that this isn't just a spiritual ceremony celebrating Jeremy and Addison, notice certainly that. But this is a gathering of the church to worship God and celebrate the holy mystery that is marriage. Where I pastor in Waco, Texas, where Jeremy and Addison attended church for these last couple of years, we're constantly reminding people that we think the division we sometimes erect between what we call sacred and secular is a poor one. That the world was created good by God and named as such. And yet still in this world of created good and equality, there's a temptation on days like today and moments like this to reach for that word sacred, isn't there? Because that's what this feels like to us. We have this joy that's hitting a ceiling inside of us, and we don't know what to do with that, and we find that our human emotions have limitations. So I want to suggest some language for us. This is from the Celtic tradition. They talk about thin places. That is, the spaces and the places, the experience, the emotions that we have in our lives, where the veil that stands between heaven and earth seems especially thin. And I dare say that's what we're all experiencing right now. This is full of great emotion, it's charged, and yet we know the peace of God which transcends understanding, and the joy that is inexpressible and full of His glory, to borrow from St. Peter. There's another reason why that this is so much fun and why this means so much. And so in the midst of the chaos that is today, I want the two of you to pause right now and turn around and look at everybody here. These are the people who have loved you. These are the people who have formed you. This is the community of believers around you that makes up the cloud of witnesses in your life. So drink this in, look at their faces. Now what would be fun is if we had the time, and maybe your videographers will do this, and we got a taste of this last night at the groom's dinner. But as we go around the phone and interview everybody, what we'd find are there are some who were there the day you were born, who could tell us about who you were as children, still others who made those awkward moments through you in middle school, and they could tell us about that, still others in high school, and I suspect some up here on stage with us who could tell us about the man and the woman you became in college. And if we sat down together, all of us, we could write this really interesting book, The Adventures of Addison and Jeremy. And so to you story bearers, on behalf of the Brooks and the Hayes, I want to say thank you for being here today to celebrate this momentous occasion with us. At this time, I'd like to invite up Claire Tondre, who's going to read for us from the 121st Psalm.
A reading from Psalms. I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let you stumble. The one who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel never slumbers or sleeps. The Lord himself watches over you. The Lord stands beside you as your protective shade. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon at night. The Lord keeps you from all harm and watches over your life. The Lord keeps watch over you as you come and go, both now and forever.
Well, Addyson and Jeremy did premarital counseling with me, and I tried my best to dig up some interesting dirt and figure out reasons why they shouldn't get married, but I couldn't find any. In that process, we talked about planning this moment, and I said, well, what do you want your wedding text to be? And they said, it's up to you, we just want you to pick something fun. So I did, I picked Genesis 29, and then they went and read it, and Addison texted me saying she was feeling a little nervous about that. I'm not going to read all of Genesis 29, but I suspect you'll be familiar with the story. I'm going to do a creative retelling. The story features our favorite scoundrel, Jacob. Jacob is a bit of a trickster. He's a supplanter, he's sometimes called in the scriptures. Jake, you might remember, is on the run, and yet another story filled with what I like to call good biblical family values. He steals his brother's birthright for a bowl of soup. And so he's on the move. And in Genesis 29, he pulls his 1984 Chevy into a gas station in Padanaram. There he sees a foxy young shepherd who goes by the name of Rachel. And his Bible says that three things happen. Jacob proceeds to water her sheep, plant a big smooch on her lips, and then tell her that they're related. I'm going to leave your questions aside for a minute. Laban is Rachel's dad and Jacob's uncle. He hears of the arrival of Jacob and invites him in, so Jacob stays for a few months before Laban detects something's up. This looks a little bit fishy, and so they decide to put a stop to that and set up an exchange. Jacob will offer 7 years of labor for Rachel's hand in marriage. So Jake works for those 7 long years, and before you know, the big day shows up, a festive occasion, just like what we've got going on here today. And at the end of that occasion, Laban pulls off the old daughter switcheroo. I'm going to read Genesis 29 through 22 through 25 because you just can't make this stuff up. So Laban brought together all the people in the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob. And Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I served for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me?" Laban explains to Jacob that in fact he can't marry off Rachel, his second daughter, until his first daughter, Leah, has been married. Are you feeling a little bit nervous? That's the first time I've ever used that line in a wedding. So they talk, and a week later, he marries Rachel in exchange for another 7 years' work. If you ask theologians what the point of this story, they will probably tell you something like this. Jacob the trickster finally got tricked. The supplanter finally got supplanted. He had it coming, and cosmic karma caught up with him. So Addyson and Jeremy, I suspect you're wondering why I have picked a story about backstabbing, deceit, and polygamy as your wedding text. And here is my best answer. At some point in your marriage journey, you will wake up. It might be in a year, it might be in 5 years, it might be in 10 years. And when you wake up, you'll look over in your bed and you'll expect to see Rachel, but you'll find that you've been living with Leah. And you'll be tempted to ask, what happened? What happened to the person that I married? I'm going to tell you what happened. Kids happen. Jobs happen, job losses happen, expectations going unmet happen, cancer happened, not having enough money happened, no longer being able to go to the bathroom by yourself without at least 2 children in there with you happened. It's very seldom that someone doesn't agree to marry Rachel. But it is the testimony to the love of Christ and the glory of God when somebody chooses to stay married to Leah. Leah really is the most interesting person in this story. Weddings aren't typically the place to do Bible homework, but I wanted to just exegete something for a second for you. Back up to verse 17, which we didn't read. Let me read it for you. This is from the NIV, and it says, "Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful." That's an odd detail, isn't it? That Leah had weak eyes. Here's the thing, if you read another translation like the NRSV, it says that Leah had lovely eyes. And both readings function and they make sense. The Hebrew word is rakuth, and if you ask scholars, they're split down the line. No one can say with certainty if the author intended to say that Leah had lovely eyes or if Leah had weak eyes. I think the ambiguity is there on purpose because I think the choice is yours. Addison and Jeremy, on that day in the future when you wake up expecting to find Rachel and you look over and there's Leah and you look into her eyes or you look into his eyes, you'll have a choice to make. Either you can see something lovely or you can see something weak. Marriages that work do so because they understand that we love because God first loved us. Marriages that work do so because they understand that when God looked into our eyes, God chose to see something lovely. And that is grace, and grace is the engine of love. We're going to do our vows now, so if the two of you could turn and face each other. Jeremy, I'm going to begin with you. Can you repeat after me? I, Jeremy, take thee, Addison, to be my wedded wife.
I, Jeremy, take thee, Addison, to be my wedded wife.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish till death do us apart.
To love and to cherish till death do us part.
According to God's holy ordinance.
According to God's holy ordinance.
And thereto I pledge thee my faith.
And thereto I pledge thee my faith.
Addison. I, Addison, take thee, Jeremy, to be my wedded husband.
I, Addyson, take thee, Jeremy, to be my wedded husband.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
For better and for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer and poorer.
For richer and poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish till death do us apart.
To love and to cherish until death do us part.
According to God's holy ordinance.
According to God's holy ordinance.
And thereto I pledge thee my faith.
And thereto I pledge thee my faith.
Could we have the rings, please? Jeremy, I'm going to begin with you. Could you place that ring on Addison's finger and repeat after me? I give you this ring
I give you this ring
as a symbol of my love.
as a symbol of my love.
I promise with all that I am
I promise with all that I am
and all that I have
and all that I have
to honor you.
to honor you
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Addison, can you place that ring on Jeremy's finger? And repeat after me. Jeremy, I give you this ring
Jeremy, I give you this ring
as a symbol of my love.
as a symbol of my love.
I promise with all that I am,
I promise with all that I am,
all that I have,
all that I have,
to honor you.
to honor you.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Jeremy and Addison are going to light a unity candle in just a moment, and we've seen this done before. We think we know what it symbolizes, but I ask that as we watch them, we wouldn't just be passive spectators, but we would be prayerful partners in the seen and the unseen, what we trust God is doing in these moments.
I freak out. God knows what I need. You know what I need. Your love is, your love is, your love is strong, and your love is, your love is, your love is strong, and your love is, your love is, your love is strong.
Jeremy, a very excited and anticipated moment for you. You may now kiss your bride. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you for the very first time Mr. and Mrs. Jeremy and Addison Brooks.